In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry returns to Hogwarts for his third year, only to learn that Sirius Black, a dangerous prisoner, has escaped from Azkaban and is rumored to be hunting him. As strange events unfold, the truth about Sirius, Harry's parents, and a betrayal from the past slowly come to light. His installment deepens the magical world and introduces themes of justice, identity, and forgiveness, making it one of the most emotionally rich chapters in Harry's journey. About the author, J.K. Rowling, born Joanne Rowling in 1965, is a British author best known for creating the Harry Potter series. With her vivid imagination and layered storytelling, she transformed a simple idea scribbled on a napkin into a global phenomenon. Her work has inspired a generation to read and dream while exploring complex themes like courage, love, loss, and resilience within a magical universe that continues to enchant millions. The summer at number 4, Privet Drive, was as dreadful as ever for Harry Potter. The blazing heat sat heavy in the air, and inside the Dursleys' prim and polished home, Harry was treated like a shadow. He had returned from his second year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, with tales no one cared to hear, and a heart full of longing for the magical world he belonged to. His room was barely touched, except for hurried meals and distant bangs on the door. Aunt Petunia ignored him, Uncle Vernon glared at him, and Dudley remained a blubbering tyrant whose only exercise came from running to and from the refrigerator. But Harry had grown stronger in quiet ways. He secretly practiced spells under his blanket by wand light and wrote letters to his best friends, Ron and Hermione, even though his owl, Hedwig, was locked away in her cage most of the time. All he wanted was to return to Hogwarts, to the moving staircases, enchanted ceilings, and the warmth of belonging. But the Dursleys had other plans. One day Uncle Vernon received a letter from his dreadful sister, Aunt Marge, saying she'd be visiting for a week. Harry's stomach dropped. Marge had never liked him. She treated him worse than the Dursleys did, and that was saying something. To make things worse, Uncle Vernon made a deal. If Harry could behave perfectly, he'd sign a form allowing him to visit Hogsmeade, the nearby magical village. Desperate to go, Harry agreed. At first he swallowed every insult Marge hurled his way. She made cruel jokes about his clothes, called him ungrateful, and spoke of him like he was a mistake that should have been left on the doorstep of an orphanage. But Harry kept calm. He counted backwards, focused on breathing, reminded himself that soon he'd be back where he belonged. But on the final evening of her stay, Marge crossed a line she shouldn't have. Wine in her glass and cruelty in her heart, she insulted Harry's parents, said his father was a drunk, his mother a bad sort. The anger rose like a storm inside him. Magic pulsed through his veins before he could stop it. With a loud pop, Aunt Marge began to inflate, her body ballooning like a giant beach ball. Her fingers puffed up, her eyes bulged, and she floated up to the ceiling like some grotesque balloon. Harry didn't wait for the aftermath. He sprinted to his room, snatched his trunk, grabbed his wand, and fled into the dark night air. His heart pounded as he walked down the street, unsure of where to go. He had just used magic illegally outside of school, something strictly forbidden. He'd likely be expelled. As the night deepened, a strange chill crawled along Harry's skin. He wasn't alone. From the shadows he glimpsed something, a black shape. A large, shaggy dog with eyes like cold lanterns stared at him. Before he could process the fear, the night bus appeared out of nowhere with a thunderous bang bright purple and towering 3 decks high. The conductor, Span Shunpike, welcomed him aboard and offered him a bed for the journey. Harry, still shaken, climbed aboard, unsure of where he was going, but grateful to be away from Privet Drive. The bus hurtled through the streets with dizzying speed, bouncing over cars, squeezing through narrow lanes, and skidding to stops inches from disaster. Harry learned that the wizarding world was in a flurry. Sirius Black, a notorious criminal, had escaped from Azkaban, the wizard prison guarded by creatures too terrible to describe. No one had ever escaped before, and everyone feared he was coming after Harry. When the bus finally stopped at the Leaky Cauldron in London, Harry expected immediate punishment. He'd broken wizarding law by running away and performing magic. But instead of a furious lecture, he was greeted by Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic, with surprisingly gentle concern. Fudge didn't even mention expulsion. Instead, he insisted Harry stay at the inn until school began again, and warned him to stay close. The ministry believed Harry was in danger. The rest of the summer passed strangely. Harry had his own room, could roam Diagon Alley during the day, and caught up with Ron and Hermione when they arrived with their families. But hanging over all of them was the same chilling news. Sirius Black was on the run. The Daily Prophet splashed his gaunt, sunken face across every front page, and everyone whispered about his madness. He had been close to Voldemort, they said, and now he was free. When it was time to return to Hogwarts, the friends boarded the familiar scarlet train. Laughter and chatter filled the compartments, but as storm clouds gathered outside, unease rippled through the students. In one dimly lit carriage they sat with a sleeping stranger, a man in shabby robes who seemed entirely unaware of the children around him. He had a kind face lined with weariness, and the name on his suitcase read Professor R.J. Lupin. Suddenly the train lurched to a halt. Lights flickered. The air grew unbearably cold, and silence fell. A shadow moved outside their compartment, then glided in. A towering figure, hooded and cloaked, drifted into the space. The very warmth seemed to drain away. Ice crawled into their lungs. The creature turned slowly, and Harry felt a terrible pull from inside himself. His breath caught, his vision swam, and he collapsed. In the distance he thought he heard screaming, a woman's voice, pleading, crying, ... When he awoke, Professor Lupin had driven the creature off with a silver flash of light. The others were pale, but unharmed. Harry, however, was shaken to the core. No one else had fainted. No one else had heard the screams. The creature was a Dementor, a guard from Azkaban, and for reasons he didn't yet understand, they affected him more deeply than anyone else. Arriving at Hogwarts that year felt both comforting and unsettling. The castle loomed tall as ever, but Harry couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting in the shadows. A new school year began, but the presence of Dementors near the grounds sent to guard against Sirius Black gave the place a haunted air. Even on the Quidditch pitch, the cold of their presence could be felt. It was as if safety itself had been peeled away. But school brought familiar joys. Lessons, laughter, and friends made the days brighter. Hagrid, their beloved half-giant friend, had become a teacher, and his first lesson introduced them to magical creatures called hippogriffs, majestic beings with the front of an eagle and the back of a horse. Harry, with quiet courage, bowed before one named Buckbeak, and soared above the trees on its back. He wind singing in his ears. It was freedom, pure and wild. But joy was fragile. Draco Malfoy, always spoiling things, mocked the creature and got himself scratched. He exaggerated the wound, causing an uproar that threatened Buckbeak's life and Hagrid's job. Meanwhile, Professor Lupin's classes were a quiet revelation. He taught them to fight fear, to stand tall, even when their knees trembled. When he showed them how to confront a boggart, a creature that turned into whatever frightened you most, Harry saw it transform into a Dementor. The image alone chilled him. But Lupin stepped in, shielding Harry gently. Even so, darker truths were circling. One day, Harry overheard a conversation that shattered something inside him. Sirius Black wasn't just any criminal. He had once been Harry's godfather. Not only that, but he had been his parents' dearest friend, and it was said that he betrayed them to Voldemort. The man who once held Harry as a baby had, according to rumor, given them away to death. And now that man was coming for him. Back at school, the chill of the Dementors didn't just linger at the gates. They drifted through the grounds, tall, faceless beings in dark, tattered cloaks, who fed on happiness and brought icy despair wherever they floated. Harry had never known such cold. The first time he encountered them on the Hogwarts Express, he fainted, collapsing into darkness as the Dementor hovered over him. He was shaken and embarrassed, but he wasn't alone. A new teacher, quiet and a little disheveled, stepped in to protect him. His name was Professor Lupin, and though he didn't look particularly imposing, he radiated calm and kindness, something Harry hadn't realized he needed until that moment. Professor Lupin began teaching defense against the dark arts in a way no one ever had before. His lessons were thrilling, practical, and respectful. He treated every student, even Neville, with a kind of patient attentiveness that felt rare in the magical world. Harry was especially drawn to him, not just because of the way he taught, but because there was something unspoken in him, a gentleness tinged with sorrow, as though Lupin too had been shaped by loss. Yet the shadow of Sirius Black lingered. Students whispered in corridors. Portraits were on edge. The fat lady who guarded Gryffindor Tower had been attacked, her canvas slashed apart, and she refused to return until Black was caught. Security tightened. The castle that once felt like a sanctuary now felt like a fortress, and Harry learned in a quiet conversation with McGonagall that Sirius Black had once been his father's best friend and was the very man who betrayed his parents to Voldemort. The realization struck Harry like a blow. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was personal. Trying to cope with the storm inside him, Harry threw himself into schoolwork and Quidditch. For a while, the thrill of flying and the joy of winning matches gave him something to hold on to. Yet even those moments were short-lived. During one match, Dementors swarmed the pitch, and Harry fell unconscious from his broom. It was shattered by the Whomping Willow. Dumbledore, furious at the creature's interference, began pushing back against the Ministry's security measures, but Harry was haunted by more than lost games. Every time a Dementor drew near, he heard his mother's voice, pleading, screaming, as if reliving the night she died. Professor Lupin noticed. In private lessons, he began teaching Harry an advanced charm, the Patronus, a protective force made from pure happy memory. It could drive away Dementors. Harry struggled at first. How could he summon joy when everything felt so heavy? But slowly, with Lupin's encouragement, He began to find moments, the first time he rode a broom, the day he learned he was a wizard, that helped him push back the darkness. A silvery wisp began to form, then grew stronger, flickering like a ghostly creature waiting to be born. Meanwhile, the mystery of Sirius Black deepened. Fred and George Weasley secretly gave Harry a magical map, the Marauder's Map, a worn bit of parchment that revealed every inch of Hogwarts and the location of everyone inside. Harry was stunned to see a name on it that shouldn't have been there, Peter Pettigrew. But Pettigrew had been dead for 12 years. How could he be roaming the halls? Confused and wary, Harry began to dig. He snuck into Hogsmeade using the map, dodging teachers and Aurors, and overheard a conversation that shook him to his core. Black hadn't just betrayed his parents. He was supposed to be Harry's godfather, his protector, the man chosen to keep him safe. And instead he had handed them over to death. The rage Harry felt was blinding. He swore that if he ever met Sirius Black, he would do whatever it took to make him pay. But the world wasn't as simple as it seemed. On one cold night, everything unraveled. On's pet rat, Scabbers, had been acting strange, nervous, sickly. Then he vanished, only to be found, and then suddenly attacked by Hermione's cat, Crookshanks. Ron chased after them, and Harry and Hermione followed. The chase led them to the base of the Whomping Willow, where they were dragged underground into a hidden passageway. At the end was the Shrieking Shack, long rumored to be the most haunted place in Britain. And there, waiting in the shadows, was Sirius Black. But he wasn't the monster they expected. In the shadows of the Shrieking Shack, the truth finally began to surface. Sirius Black, once thought a villain, was anything but. Instead of the cold-blooded traitor and murderer the wizarding world believed him to be, Sirius revealed a story of loyalty, sacrifice, and deep betrayal. He told Harry and his friends that he had never betrayed the Potters. The real culprit was Peter Pettigrew, the same rat Ron had kept as a pet all year long, cleverly disguised to avoid detection. Sirius explained that Pettigrew had faked his own death, framing Sirius for the crimes he committed, and had been living undetected for years. Worse still, Pettigrew had been working with Voldemort, helping him regain power. The pieces suddenly fit together: Pettigrew's disappearance, the fear that Black inspired, and the terrible betrayal of the Potters. Harry, Ron, and Hermione found themselves caught in a whirlwind of disbelief, fear, and hope. It was hard to accept that the rat scurrying in Ron's pocket was the dark secret behind so much pain and loss. But Sirius's story was filled with sorrow and truth, and he had risked everything to protect Harry. He wanted nothing more than to see his godson safe, to make right the wrongs of the past. Just as they grappled with this revelation, danger closed in. Pettigrew escaped, and the Ministry of Magic arrived, led by Dementors and Aurors. A tense chase ensued, and Harry and his friends, caught between fear and determination, tried to shield Sirius. But the Dementors approached, and Harry felt the icy despair, again, this time stronger and more threatening. Remembering Lupin's lessons, Harry summoned his Patronus with fierce focus, a shining stag bursting from his wand, scattering the Dementors like dark shadows fleeing the dawn. Lupin, who had been watching from the sidelines, revealed his own secret. He was a werewolf, cursed but controlled, and a long-time friend of the Potters and Sirius. The night unfolded with twists and turns none of them could have predicted. With the help of a magical time-turner, Hermione's secret tool for attending multiple classes, Harry and Hermione traveled back in time to rescue Sirius and Buckbeak, the hippogriff condemned to death. Together, they changed the course of the night, freeing the innocent and giving Sirius a chance to escape his fate. In the quiet moments before dawn, Harry looked at his godfather and felt something new, a connection, a family, a protector beyond any magic. Though the world outside still whispered of danger, in that moment hope glimmered brightly. Returning to the present, the castle was alive again, but Harry knew his life had shifted forever. Secrets had been uncovered, friendships had deepened, and the shadows had lifted just enough to reveal the stars. With Sirius Black's true story unveiled, the world seemed a little less certain and a lot more complicated. Harry's heart swelled with conflicting emotions, relief, confusion, and a fierce desire for justice. He now knew that the man everyone feared was actually trying to protect him, and the real villain was lurking quietly in the shadows. But he also understood that the magical world was not always black and white. It was filled with shades of gray, secrets, and choices that shaped destinies. School life continued with its mix of excitement and challenge. The presence of Dementors still weighed heavily on everyone, but Harry's confidence in his Patronus charm grew stronger each day. The charm, a glowing stag that seemed to dance and shimmer with every flick of his wand, became not only a shield, but a symbol of hope. His friendship with Ron and Hermione deepened as they faced dangers and discoveries together, their bond tested, but never broken. Meanwhile, trouble stirred around them. The news spread that Sirius Black had escaped again, this time with the help of Harry and Hermione, who used a magical time travel device known as the Time Turner to save him. The Ministry of Magic was furious and demanded his capture, branding him still a criminal despite his innocence. But Harry saw a glimmer of light in knowing his godfather was out there somewhere, free and fighting for him. Life at Hogwarts held moments of magic beyond the turmoil. The lessons, the Quidditch matches, and the quiet evenings by the fire reminded Harry that even amid darkness, light could be found. Hagrid's care for magical creatures brought laughter and wonder, while Lupin's guidance offered strength and wisdom. Each day was a step on a journey of growth, courage, and discovery. As the school year drew to a close, Harry's thoughts lingered on the past and the future. The people he loved, the secrets uncovered, and the battles fought, shaped who he was becoming. The escape of Sirius Black was not just an ending, but a new beginning, a promise that no matter the challenges ahead, Harry would face them with bravery, heart, and the friends by his side who made him whole. The summer that followed Harry's third year at Hogwarts was unlike any he had experienced before. It was a season filled with both quiet reflection and a new kind of hope. No longer did he feel completely alone in the world. The knowledge that Sirius Black, his godfather, was alive and out there somewhere, watching over him from the shadows, filled Harry's heart with warmth he hadn't known he needed. Hawk Sirius was forced to hide, and could not yet come forward. The very idea of family someone who truly cared gave Harry a strength beyond any magic spell. Harry returned to the Dursleys' home, but the air around him had changed. The mundane house felt smaller somehow, its walls closing in with less power than before. Harry had grown, not just in years but in spirit. His friendships with Ron and Hermione had deepened into something unbreakable. They shared not only laughter and adventures, but also fears and hopes. Their bonds were a kind of magic itself, one that gave them courage when they faced the unknown. During those long summer days, Harry practiced spells, honing his skills with determination. He replayed Lupin's lessons in his mind, especially the Patronus charm, understanding now that magic wasn't just about power, but also about hope, memory, and resilience. The glowing stag that once flickered weakly in his hands had become stronger, a beacon of light against the darkness. It reminded him that even when shadows crept close, they could never extinguish the brightness inside. The wizarding world, however, remained complicated and imperfect. Despite Sirius's innocence being proven to a few, the Ministry of Magic continued to hunt him, unwilling to admit their mistake and frightened of the chaos it might cause. Labels like criminal and fugitive were hard to shake, and Harry learned that justice was not always clear or swift. Sometimes the people who fought for what was right had to do so quietly, in the shadows, trusting in truth and loyalty to guide them. Harry also thought often about the lessons of the past year. He had faced his fears, learned about betrayal and forgiveness, and discovered that people were rarely just heroes or villains. They were complicated, full of choices and regrets, courage and mistakes. It was a lesson Harry would carry with him for the rest of his life. As autumn leaves began to fall and the familiar promise of another school year approached, Harry felt ready. He was stronger, wiser, and more certain of who he was. The shadows of the past still lingered, but they no longer ruled him. Instead, they were a part of the story that made him who he was: brave, kind, and full of heart. With his friends by his side and the knowledge that he was loved, Harry looked forward to the future, a future full of magic, mystery, and adventure. He knew challenges awaited him, but also that he would face them with the same courage that had carried him through the darkest nights. And so, as the sun set on that summer, Harry Potter stood ready to embrace all that lay ahead, carrying the light of hope and friendship in his heart, shining brighter than any spell. And so ends the tale of Harry's third year at Hogwarts, a year filled with secrets, shadows, and surprising truths. He faced fears both old and new, discovered the meaning of family beyond blood, and found strength in friendship and hope. Though dangers still lurk beyond the castle walls, Harry's courage shines, brighter than ever, lighting the way for the adventures yet to come. Thank you for joining this journey into the magical world. Until next time, may your nights be filled with wonder and your dreams with magic. Good night.